Hello, everyone. Hi. I'm glad you're joining me for this session. My ambition for the next, say, 30 minutes is to give you a simple, practical guide on how to build a product strategy to make you win. And that means markets, your users and customers, but also investors. I mean, that's then the easier part, trust me. That might sound like a bold statement, but I'm lucky enough to have experience on both sides. I'm Mirjam, and I worked as a product leader for most of my career, really, starting at a startup-sized marketplace as the first product manager, and then scaling it up to being a highly profitable market leader, winning in several verticals that it addresses. And we scaled the team up to more than 60 people in product and tech until I left after 7 years. And then I was a VP of product at Ex-Adevinta, leading CPOs all over the globe, really, from Belarus to Segunda Mano, Ireland to North Africa. And their product strategy was a really important theme because most of these marketplaces were in growth stage, still tracking and trying to find product market fit with strong pressure on monetizing. So I built a functional community of product leaders there, and that was highly interesting and inspirational for me. But then I got the opportunity to join Matthias and Speedinvest X as an early stage marketplace investor, and I was really intrigued, and I decided to jump and try it. And I did my part in being an early stage investor at Speedinvest X, and there I worked with a lot of really smart teams and got to discuss product with a lot of founders. And I realized again that there's a theme on product strategy. So even though I discovered that product is more of my purpose than what investment was, I'm really privileged that I can combine the two sides, being the operational part and the investment side. And today I really want to share what I collected from my, in total, almost 10 years of experience on like how a product strategy is nothing theoretical, nothing that you do as a homework for someone else, say your board or your investors, but you do it because it fuels your purpose and it will make you deliver and ship better products. And this is something that I can really promise because I've seen it happen, and I want to give you some practical tooling in this talk to encourage you to kind of just invest some more time and maybe leverage that by 3x, 10x. Usually, if we were in the same room, now would be the time where we say, okay, do we have any other things in common than a common passion for product strategy? And these would be some of the things that I would throw in, and some of you would raise your hands, and we'd be a little subgroup of people that also think that skiing empty slopes is meditation, or that also have 2 kids, or that also are passionate product leaders. But like this, I'm just sending this to you. I bet that we share quite a bit. So today I'm back working with founders and NGOs in helping them grow their products, their product teams, and also kind of build resilient product strategies that'll be the foundation for healthy growth and for winning their markets. Okay, let's take it from here. I like starting off with comics, I have to admit. So I've been all these 3 people in my career, and I know how difficult it is to know exactly like when you need to be heads down executing, like the guy that's dragging the carriage here. I mean, he or she is really giving all he or she has to pull this and trying harder and kind of doing more of the same. And it's really busy. And then there's time when you need to lift your head and be more of the person on the left and kind of understand when to calibrate and when to reconsider, maybe to pivot, but at least kind of to lift your head and give it some time and make the inspiration sink in. And over the years, I've seen a lot of teams struggle with this, as I struggled with it myself. So yes, I told you I'm pretty privileged understanding the 2 sides, and now I'm really passionate about spreading the word on how a product strategy and a way of working strategically in product can really help you on being that person on the left more often than the one on the right. And I hope that that sounds intriguing. If yes, then please follow me for the next 20 minutes. Because I'm a product leader by passion, I'd say, and by training and by experience. Also here, when preparing this talk, I seeked for evidence, and I asked my friends and colleagues in early stage investment on what it is that they expect, especially at early stage. What is it they want to see when they are discussing with a startup in terms of product strategy? And there's a few quotes that I just want to share with you. They want to see a strong plan and then early proof on how you can grow beyond Series A. Another one shared with me that a product roadmap that's linked to important customer problems and not feature lists would be what he or she expects. The focus on an early customer subsegment of highly engaged customers that love your product and that you can nail it with, and then branch it out. A vision, not features. Why are you building what you're building? What makes your product unique to each side of the marketplace? And overall, a reasonable plan with a high-level timeline with the most important milestones indicated. And then there's another one, a sound and ambitious product strategy that goes beyond the next 12 months. We had something similar before, and is built around a strong vision overall. Ideally, they have a timeline that we can discuss, and it has some internal logic. So looking at this, you can already see that there are some themes, and let me kind of recap them. It's around addressing a big enough and important enough problem. It's about understanding in depth who your customer is, where you can find them, how you can address them, and how you can scale your product with them. It's around early proof. I mean, most of you are probably still seeking product market fit, at least if you're early stage, or you are kind of identifying it, but you need to kind of prove it and test it and see how resilient it is. And then it's about a compelling plan on how to achieve all this. So I know it's difficult to have all these answers ready. The investors know that too, but hopefully you're intrigued by finding these answers for yourself and your teams rather than for anyone else, because then you have a solid foundation that you can build your product and solutions on top of. Okay, asked for a definition of product strategy. I always go with what Marty Kagan says. I really appreciate how he shares a lot of really good content on his blog, and I'd warmly recommend you follow him. Simply put, product strategy is how to bring your product vision to reality while meeting the needs of your company as you go. And that really means that your product kind of pulls from the enthusiasm of your vision, and then you ground it in reality, and the link how you get there, that is what product strategy can do for you. Why do you need this? And let me just as an important statement also share that I would always prefer a team that is really strong on execution over a team that is fantastic on strategizing. But with product strategy, it's a bit different. It has nothing to do with strategy decks or anything. It's more a way of working and the way of how you approach finding solutions and kind of putting your resources and your effort on where you have the biggest impact. And that's why in product strategy, I believe it's less slides in terms of an artifact that you're producing, but it's really kind of how you bring your vision to life, like Marty Kagan put it. So most, if not all of the teams that I work with or talk to have a long list of goals, say 3x the revenue, reduce the churn, go to another market and reach a penetration of X. And they have a roadmap of some kind, and very often, and that like almost hurts, they have a long backlog that they're showing, indicating detailed tactics. And the reality is very often, if you start engaging in a conversation, you realize that there's something missing. And what is missing here is really kind of what I would call this product strategy. How do you choose what problem to solve and what to better not solve, or not solve now, or not solve yet? And same applies for your customers and for the geos you're working in. So product strategy is really a practical tool that should provide you and your team good guidance on what to do next, how to learn from it, and how to do more of the things that are benefiting your business. Cool. So what are the elements of a winning product strategy? I bet that most of you have many of this covered, and probably there is just a few items that you need to add or that you can recalibrate or improve a bit. Ideally, you walk away from this and say, hey, I'm not even that bad. I'm kind of almost there, or I'm perfect. At least I want to inspire you a bit that it's not theory, but it's practical, very helpful things that you can easily put into practice. You start by a strong product vision. You then need to obsess about deep customer insight. You need guiding KPIs, and you'll build an outcome-driven roadmap. And I'd argue that is all you need. And let me take you through the elements one by one. What do I mean by building a strong product vision? Create an aspirational statement to articulate what you're bringing to the world through your product. I bet all of you have that. And in many cases, this product vision is going to be very similar, if not identical, to what you have as an overall vision. So I'd argue that the closer this is, the easier it is for you to get to your product vision and to also communicate it in a compelling way to your teams. So what is the ultimate goal of your product? Why do you even exist? Please do think long-term. Yes, it's really important what you need to nail next. That's part of the executional plan of how you get there. But here, when you're working on product vision, it's really the time for you to think extremely big. And a good way to test it is kind of go ask your family or friends that do something totally different than startups, and they'll give you this mild smile and go, sure, that's what you're gonna be. That's what you're gonna do. If everyone believes that this can be done, it's probably not bold enough. And please be specific. In my time as an investor, I've seen a lot of product slides where it says we are going to be the best, the biggest, the most important, the most efficient. But what does that even mean? Try to add something like that is bigger, that is more concrete, like where you can really kind of, where you can communicate how you truly understand the depth of your problem and the depth of like what you're bringing and why it's you and not someone else who's bringing this to the world. Something that I've seen a lot that is not really helpful is that often product vision is built with product people mainly, if not only. I mean, for all of those of you who haven't considered that, please do make it a top level priority. I mean, if you don't include the relevant function and people in your company, it's going to be very hard to get from a product vision to a really successful executional plan, because probably you'll end up with a somewhat, I'd say, disjointed final output of the product vision. So what does that entail? I give you a little checklist of things that you can take away for a product vision, test it in terms of, is it bold enough? Can you grow really big? Is it inspiring enough? Is it guiding enough? Like, can it help you navigate through tough decisions, which you know you're taking on a day-to-day basis? And if your answer is no to one or more of these, please do go back and spend some more time on it or find new ways of working on it so that you don't rush over this. At least that'd be really my honest advice, because usually this kind of makes you really resilient. And that's the first and most important step of any good product strategy. Personally, I have always obsessed about understanding your customer's problem. Empathy and curiosity helps, obviously, but you also need to be kind of good at saying no to people, which is sometimes a bit harder than saying no to functionality or features or resources spent, because you're not fixing everything for everyone, not even in your core customer segment. The best teams I worked with were extremely precise on what qualifies their customers as their first customers. And then they had a plan on like how they would grow it from there. And I don't know who listened to Lenny's talk yesterday, but he was also showing us like how to slice your market entry in the beginning. And it can be by geo, it can be by some verticals, it can be other elements that your customers share, but you need to understand and you need to really know where they are, who they are, and where you can find them. I mean, that's no news to you, but I've seen so many teams that kind of addressed a somewhat too big customer segment in the beginning, and they couldn't really work with them because they were not close enough to their customers. So understand what's their most difficult, relevant problem. And I'm afraid you can't only measure this, and you can't only ask the customers because they simply won't know. A tool that I have seen work quite well for this part of the process is actually customer journey mapping, where you'd map out the whole process, like you're watching the customer, you're following it, and then it gives you all the breaking points. Like, where does my future customer take out a paper or a pen or call someone or just type something on their phone? Like, where is their process getting really tedious? Like, where is the real problem, and where can you kind of bring something to them? And then ideally, you and your team will find out how you can 10x solve this problem better than it is currently and that anyone else can. And another important thing that I've seen quite a few teams struggle with is actually how to look at the market overall. Customer realities change through technological impact, through things like a pandemic. I mean, we couldn't foresee that, but it showed us in a very forceful way how customers' realities can change really rapidly. So try to make it a habit of you and your team, and that goes beyond product, into how to have educated guesses about market dynamics and about how the reality will change and how you will change it, or how you will benefit from those changes. Actually, just to share that with you, the best teams I worked with have an extremely strong entrepreneurial instinct, I'd say. So these product people really kind of want to create a business by solving a problem. And that's a good mix. So if you don't have that yet, try to calibrate it or change some roles, or think about it with the next hire that you're making, that there's more than just roles. There's also some, say, personality elements that you'd need to have to get really good and to excel at this. Asked for a checklist on this one. What can you take away from this? Please do know your user really well, describe them in detail. And I'd always go for the narrower segment than for the broader segment in the beginning, because it'll make your life a lot easier into navigating the decisions and kind of spending your resources on where you can find proof and find product market fit, and then grow from there. Make sure you understand your customers' pains and you have educated guesses about the market. Cool, and then we are already at item 3. Choose a specific set of product KPIs, measure, analyze, and learn. And probably you heard Philip and Justin talk about KPIs that they see or that they want to see, or where they can learn from an investor's perspective. And the reality is, very often there's too many KPIs that we're following, especially at early stage. But given that you have a strong product vision and you identified your customer segment, ideally at this stage you have a prioritized list of goals. And then please do define your guiding success metrics based on these goals. Say you are pre-product market fit and you need to onboard customers and make them try out your product. A specific product metric could then, for example, be over the course of the next 3 months or 6 months, increase the free trial downloads by 50%. And another one could be converting the existing customers from a free to a paid product and increase this by 30%. And then a good tool on how you can track this would be cohort analysis. I mean, there you can really go back into Philip's presentation from yesterday. He gave some really useful examples on like which cohorts actually work and provide relevant insights over which are less useful. Make them really specific. I've seen so many like really well-crafted big product dashboards, but then they state averages, they don't account seasonality, you can't segment into your users, you can't really deep dive into the funnel, and then it won't help you. Like my argument really is like the more specific you are in your early stages, the easier it's gonna be for you to then kind of take the right decisions and grow faster. Base your product decisions on a combination of what you can observe from your customer behavior, as well as on product usage data. And then this lead to another checklist, to specific metrics, use the metrics for decision making, and please do find evidence on top of what you can measure. And if you feel that you're doing okay on this, fine. But if you're asked for KPIs that really don't kind of help you on this, also dare to kind of say, okay, I'll look into this later, but now I need to focus on A, B, C, D, because. Cool. I'm not even that bad on time. That's good. So now we're almost there. You have your vision, you have identified your customer segment, you have defined some metrics, and you're ready to take your decisions based on these metrics. And now you can craft your roadmap, and your roadmap should communicate the why behind what you're building. And it's really more of a guidance on the execution of your strategy. And it communicates the direction of the progress on how you're doing towards the strategy. And this is really, really important. And then obviously for your teams internally, it is backed by a really detailed backlog that kind of provides the executional program for everyone on the team, and that you can go back to on a regular basis. But then if this kind of all links back to your vision, I'd argue that you're very well set for kind of having a winning product strategy at this stage. So double check if your roadmap is built on themes and tied to a problem. Please don't send around feature lists. You'll end up having a conversation about stuff that's really not relevant, at least not at the stage of kind of seeking for investment. Focus on the value it delivers and communicate the value rather than the functionality you shipped. And make sure that it's really dynamic. Like, don't allow your team to build really long lists and kind of look 12 months ahead, 24 months ahead in terms of features and functionality you're building, because this is a waste. You need to be dynamic and kind of react to what you have and really kind of see how you're doing towards your goals, rather than kind of building an upfront plan, whatever the beauty of this plan might be. Okay, so I think at this stage, we are doing pretty okay. I mean, in terms of having a product strategy. Summarizing it again, 3 things I wanted to take away. 1, your product strategy is the link between your product vision on the one hand and your tactics. It'll provide guidance on what problems to focus on. 2, please do obsess about customer insight at all time. Make this a way how you work and establish these routines into your teams. And make sure that you're taking your decisions as much based on insight as you can, and make it transparent. And do tie your roadmaps to goals and to the desired outcomes, because then you will ideally not be the guy on the right all too often, at least. Cool. So this is what I prepared. I'm hugely inspired by a lot of smart people out there. Here's a list of my favorites. I collected some frameworks. I'm gonna upload the presentation afterwards so you can access all of them. There's also some books. Yes, I do read books from time to time. And yeah, I think I can now move into questions. Just give me a second to see what you put. Sorry, Jesus. Okay. How do you prioritize among different value units, functionalities of the marketplace? How to prioritize. There's a lot of really good frameworks out there also. Maybe you want to look into the 20 product prioritization techniques. Personally, I think the clearer it is in your organization, what's the kind of next goal you need to achieve and like how you're going to measure that, the easier it's going to be to kind of take tough decisions. We sometimes in some teams had the sacrificer of the month, for example, a team that kind of didn't get any functionality, any new stuff that was being built, but that was even kind of thank you for kind of accepting that you're not in the focus because we're following a different goal. And overall, I think OKRs are a good framework to kind of align your whole company onto the most important goals. Hope that answered your questions. Then I have another one. For a social network, what would you say are the top metrics to have in order to prove product market fit has been achieved? For a social network, I have to admit, I'm not an expert on social networks. Like I didn't work with that all too much, but I'd argue that you probably have a list of the most desired actions of your users. And you probably have an idea of how to enter your market and how to grow it and like who's your audience. And then I'd advise you to measure this like really closely. You can also do cohort analysis and kind of really track the engagement. And then like, what is it that kind of comes back? Like, what are the posts? What impact are they generating, etc. So I'm happy to have a detailed conversation, but I don't think I have an easy answer to that one. I think that's all the questions. Did I overlook something? No, I think we're done. Thank you. Oh no, sorry, great insights. Do you use design thinking and or system thinking approaches? We use the latter with great results. System thinking, I haven't tried in real life myself, but I'd be really curious. So maybe we can discuss over the conference chat afterwards. Design thinking is a really powerful tool to bring on stakeholders that are usually not involved in the process. And usually you can achieve really great results, given that everyone's kind of creative and really willing and really focused. So yes, definitely. Yes, the PowerPoint, you'll get it. Really great preso, thanks. Yep, well, thank you. How to handle founder-driven companies who want to see features in the strategy. I've seen that a lot, like hiring a product person and then expecting that product person to simply follow what someone else has in mind for the product. And usually that doesn't really work. So I think being very open within the team on like what to expect and how to link the overall company vision with a product vision is an important conversation to have. And ultimately then to choose if your expectations align or if you or the founders are better off with someone else. I'm sorry to say, but that's my very blunt and very honest experience that product isn't a delivery unit for, especially not for a digital marketplace. So I think if you can't really align and find common grounds on the vision, it's going to be very tough. And what needs to be done to have you as an advisor? Nothing much. You'll have my contacts. And I think we're out of time. So everyone else who has a question that I didn't get to answer, let's have it on the chat afterwards. I'll be around and I'm also sharing my email again, or you can find me on LinkedIn and enjoy the rest of the conference as I will. Thank you.